Hello, guys. Welcome to Elegant Conversation with Jacqueline Valdez. I'm so excited to be here today. Make sure to follow us on all our social media platforms. So we have an amazing guest today. She is an author. She is a writer. She has been doing amazing stuff. She is someone I'd like to call a friend now. And I'm so excited. We are going to be talking about stop self-sabotaging yourself. And I would like to welcome Miss Felicia Shakespeare.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, I am doing well. How are you, love?
Good. Great to see you.
I know. I'm so excited you're here again. So welcome. So welcome, guys. A little bit of history is we actually met through She Magazine, and I did an interview with her. And then also we did a written interview that's going to be coming out in She Magazine too. So shout out to my second family. So I love it. Yes. So how have you been?
I have been great. How are you doing?
I am doing well, hanging in there. Life has been super busy and super crazy. And, it's been really exciting to see all of the stuff that you are doing. You have just been going full force since we first met. I love it.
Yeah, it's been a ride.
Oh, yes, I love it. And it's such an important message that you have to be given to so many people. You have books that are out, you have memoirs of different women. There's important stories that you have been sharing and so many people that you've been inspiring.
You are so nice, so kind. That is the goal, though. The goal is to inspire others.
Yes.
To be intentional about their lives. And when I think of my first book, as you're mentioning that I wrote, that was when I decided, you know how you always say, okay, what is my one-liner? What would I say describes who I am, what I'm called to do? And that's when I learned that 4 years ago, to inspire others to be intentional about living a life of faith and purpose.
I love that. And it's so hard right now, especially with everything going on in the world. We've got the election, we've got, riots, we've got quarantine, we've got COVID. To really, think and stay intentional in your thoughts, in your being, and to try to bring out the best in yourself and the positivity.
Absolutely. It is really, and that's why I love the word intentional. Yeah. Because that means it has to be a concerted effort. Yeah. It's something that's on your mind. It's not a second thought. It's like the first thought. It's the thing that drives you. And it's like anything else. When we make up our minds to do something, I'm the type of person, when I really make up my mind, it's nothing that I feel that can stop me. Right. So but what I think, Jacqueline, is for so long, we as individuals have just let life happen, I think, in some respects. I don't think I think now, of course, with COVID, we all have a different perspective. And there is a sense of urgency, I think, to a certain degree, because our mortality is in front of us. As we're watching the reports on a daily basis, you can't help but to think, okay, wait a minute, am I really doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing right now? So that's kind of been my perspective.
Yeah. And I love that, because you've really tuned into your being and you've really just been driven and helping to pull that out of other people too.
Yeah. And I would honestly say it was just so funny you brought that up too, about the project. The project started a year ago. So of course, October, when I officially launched with these ladies, the 13 women who are a part of my latest project, A Purpose-Driven Woman, 14 memoirs on becoming fearless and intentional. This was not in the cards, right? Yeah. So the idea then was, okay, what message, do I want to share with the world? And then I began to think of a collaborative project, because I really knew that I know how much it helped me to do a collaborative project. I don't want to skate over that. So what I did is, when I wrote my last book, I was already writing it, but I was invited to be a part of a collaborative project. And the title of that project was Shift On. 20 stories of turning trials into triumph. So of course that was inspirational. And I felt like, you know what, I just need to write a chapter in here, but I think I'm going to get so much more out of this. I'm going to gain knowledge, relationships. And that's exactly what happened. So there are at least 3 or 4 women out of that project that I'm still in touch with. and have been in constant contact with since that very time. And these women have went on to soar. And I just think we literally did make a shift. So with that said, when I did the conference and when I did the podcast and then finally decided, okay, what's next? It was really on my heart, although I felt there was going to be a lot of work. But I felt like, okay, I want to do this project too. I just really felt in my heart of hearts, now is the time. And I didn't want it to be salesy. I said, okay, well, who do I, what women am I in contact with now that I feel have a story and may not realize how exactly to go about it, or may potentially want to write their story. And I promise you, I think we shared it the first time. It was just like every single story is a story as far as how these women came to be in this project. And it just really touched me because I felt like, at the end of the day, as I said, if my mission is to inspire others to be intentional, I had to actually provide a space for that. So until I made those steps, this project did not get started, right? It wouldn't have happened had I not understood what my purpose was. So another part of my purpose is, to inspire women to, of course, be intentional about their brand, right? By connecting to their purpose.
I love that so much. Yeah. And it's amazing how, once you started opening up your being and once you started discovering your purpose, how it kind of just manifested and people's other, stories and their visions and their wanting to inspire other people came forth too.
Oh, yeah. I just think, it's so clear to, that once you make the steps, and like I said, it's very natural. I think one thing about anything involving your purpose, I think sometimes we make it too what I call spooky. It's like, okay, what is my purpose? Like, what's the one thing? And I think I was always like that too. I was like, okay, what is it? What is I supposed to be doing? But I had to learn, Jacqueline, that life is evolutionary.
Yes.
It's not one thing. You don't have to put yourself in a box, right? Necessarily. But the key is understanding in this moment in time, what is it that I should be doing? Where should my efforts lie? So I'm not going to say I'm the quote unquote total expert at it because I'm learning every single day, right? But I feel like there's nothing like getting to that point where you're right where you're supposed to be at that time. You have the peace that you're supposed to have. And like I said, it seems like things organically happen. So it was like, what I didn't know, everything just started falling in place as I made the steps. So as you make the steps in purpose, it's gonna all work out. I'm not just a believer. I'm a witness. It happens like that.
It's so true. I am such a huge believer too, because I feel like, a lot of people put themselves, a lot of pressure on themselves. And then they also do put themselves in a box. And this is what my parents wanted me to do. This is what I should be doing. This is how much money I should be making.
Oh, yeah.
This is what I want to do in the future, instead of just letting it organically happen and letting yourself be. And I'm a witness too with my show. I have, had so many incredible guests, and there's so many more coming on, and it's just illuminating the world one voice at a time. And it's just happening so naturally. And it's just, I feel like a momentum going,
It really is. And you're doing such an awesome job. Even the night you spoke, I knew it was something so important that needed to be heard. And I think at the end of the day, people have to hear your story, right? Everyone has a story. But how are you going to even project that story? So one form is through writing, right? Another form is through speaking, through a podcast and just sharing your message. And even, I help women build their brand by connecting to their purpose. And I know that came out of me understanding and even taking the time out. I just want to show you my book, You Are Your Brand. That's where it all began. You are your brand, building from the inside out. Because what I intended to write that book just to say, I didn't have mentorship. I know what it was like. Let me provide a tool. What can I do? We can always, so what I'm saying is work with what you have. I think sometimes the fear overtakes us because we're so busy trying to build something and we're not starting right where we are with what we have, right? And I had literally procrastinated. And you know the story about this book. I think I told you we talked about Jack Canfield and how that happened. It all unfolded.
Yes, you have to say that though. So the viewers hear that story.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
I tell you, I was telling Jacqueline how, it was like back in 2015, it was like I had put it off prior to that, just procrastinated. And all of a sudden, it was like, at the end of the day, I do feel like you can't inspire anyone at a level that you're not at, right? You have to be the leader and the one following through. And I felt like, okay, I've been talking about this book, thinking about this book, but something in me was like, it's now or never. I said, okay. So 2015, I'm like, I'm going to write the book. I want to start the book. So here we are rolling into 2016. And Jack Canfield, if you guys don't know who he is the author of Chicken Soup for the Soul, right? Over 500 million books sold. Fast forward, Jack was in a video. You want to be an author now? And I'm like, okay, that's great. Yeah, sure. And I was like, I'm gonna opt in, get these free videos, and just get, help me get started. Yeah. How would I know? Just to fast forward to 2020. Here I am. I followed those steps. Other folks popped up in the video that are amazing. And then as time went on, I wrote the book, finished it. I was true to myself. And when I wrote this book, I promise you, it opened the door. It was almost like the world was waiting on me to do my part. But you know what? I was waiting on me, right? And when I wrote this book organically, it was just like opportunities. Share with these women. And I literally didn't write this book for women. I wrote this book in my mind for the emerging leader or the college student. In my mind, I'm like, everyone needs to understand, just back to what you said, Jacqueline. We come out of college a lot of times, we want a good job. I want to make this amount of money, but we're really not thinking about our purpose and what's going to really make us fulfilled and our soul satisfied, so to speak. And as time went on, I wrote this book for that purpose, but literally the night of the release, I was at a women's, and I should have known from that too. I was at a women's conference and had my first vendor table in Oak Brook, Illinois. And it was like, I shared the story with you, when a 67-year-old woman walked up to me 4 years ago, and she was like, oh, I love the title, You Are Your Brand, because I'm still trying to figure out what I do this. And I felt like, oh my God. And it just hit me. It wasn't anything, not to put her down, but I'm like, wow, how can we go that far in life and still not know what we're supposed to do? And of course, each time stories were unfolding. I don't think I told you this one story, and I'm gonna lead back to Jack, but I had plans, once again, every door. So from panels to women's conferences, until literally Penske created a day of empowerment for their women. You all haven't heard of Penske Trucking Company, but it's like the competitor to U-Haul. And of course, that's a male-dominated industry. But I will say that the executive regional director, he was so conscientious. I love Mike to this day, just to do something for his women. So he's like, Felicia, we'll just create a workshop around your book. I'm like, perfect. I'm in this room, 27 women strong, on a Friday morning at 7 a.m. And I'm now, I mean, it was just the room, and I'm just saying, they were so on fire, just waiting. And I'm like, look, let's just start this. We don't have to do all the preliminary. We just started. But when I got at one point through the presentation, Jacqueline, and I asked the women unequivocally, if you know your purpose, I want you to raise your hand. One woman in this entire room, and that was his assistant, who I had been working with to even navigate the event, raised her hand and unequivocally could say she knew what she was there, like she was in her purpose. So I knew there was more to this. So I'm saying all that to say that was my journey. So anyway, leading to this year with COVID-19, here we are in our homes. So now it's what I call a full circle moment. Never would have thought in a million years. But I woke up one morning. Let me tell you how. Number one, I will say this, and I even wrote a chapter even in my latest book, A Purpose-Driven Woman. It's called The Path to Purpose. And one of my quotes in here is, everything starts with a decision. Even in life, we have to constantly make decisions, constantly. And I'll never forget, I got up one morning in April, because there's some things I'm like, I need to change in the way I'm doing my business, right? It's like everyone has someone that can mentor you, right? Everyone has someone that's been there and done it. I don't care how many degrees you have, how much wisdom you have, how much, guess what? There's always going to be someone that you can be the student to. And I was literally in a session and it just like ding, ding, ding. I'm like, I'm going to ask for help. That's it. I'm just going to ask. Unbeknownst to me, I asked for help. And next thing I know, like a week and a half later, I'm in a mastermind, literally. And how would I have even known? And within the first 2 sessions, we were going to be invited to like an event where my mentor was hosting Jack Canfield. I'm like, Jack Canfield? And it was just like, are you kidding me? Jack is going to be in the guest. So we had like an exclusive invite, everyone that was in this mastermind, to come be a part of this event that was already being promoted that we knew nothing about. And I began to share a little bit of the story about my, how I saw him in the Facebook ads, and I downloaded and I went ahead and wrote the book, and it's done. And unbeknownst to me, this room would have, I think the Zoom room had 250 people. I think I shared this with you. Yeah. 250 women. And then it was like 200 more, or a little, almost 200 more, like over 400 people was in this event.
Wow.
Half tuning in and half in that room. So I'm saying to myself, there's no way on God's green earth I'm about to talk to Jack. I'm just going to sit here and just take in the knowledge, right? Unbeknownst to me, see, when you make, once again, back because I made a decision, right? Now I'm in this situation. And now I'm in this room with Jack. Like, this is a guy that inspired me to write this book that has literally brought me to this point 4 years later because I followed through on what was in my heart. Yeah. And there was a point where he just poured out his heart and soul. I found out even more things about this gentleman that I had in common with. I'm like, wow, educator from the city of Chicago. He taught us, and just all these things. So fast forward, I didn't think I would be. So all these people, it was Q&A, like 20 minutes, one question after another. I didn't even raise my hand. I didn't put no chats. I'm just gonna listen. And he was like, oh, I got 10 more minutes, ladies, 5 more minutes. I think he had to go on to another Zoom in this COVID environment. And immediately my mentor was like, hey, Jack, I have some friends in Chicago. And I'm like, are you kidding me? How awesome. So another young lady from Chicago and I were called upon, because literally it was a global meeting. And I was the last one. And I'm just thinking, wow, I thought of that term, saving the best for last, right? Number one. And I began to think, like, what can I say? What can I say? And all I could hear in my heart and mind at that moment was just tell him thank you. Let him know what happened and tell him thank you. Because every question had already been asked, and they literally captured the moment. It's on my Instagram page right now. And it just blew my mind. And I'm like, everything starts with a decision. So who would have thought 4 years prior, not only would I have the opportunity to ask this question to me in this same space, but guess what? In July, I was literally speaking in the same conference with him I'm literally standing behind him on the flyer. I'm like, you can't even make this up. You can't make this up. So,
I love it. It's such an incredible story. It gives me goosebumps every time I hear it. I love it. Love it. Love it.
I hope I'm giving all of the unction that it is and it was, but it was just truly, just really when you think about, this was the man in the YouTube video. Yeah. That I didn't even know who he was at the moment. I just signed it. And then, of course, we all have heard of Chicken Soup for the Soul. Yeah. We've all heard the journey. And, of course, that other component of me meeting Lisa Nichols, who was a part of his Chicken Soup for the African American Soul, who's also an amazing author and speaker in this time, unprecedented time. So just amazing.
It's just amazing. It's so cool. And I have to say, it gives you goosebumps because you realize that, like, there is a bigger picture. There is something driving people. There is the universe and God, and there's, your mission of what you're meant to do. And when you're in the right place in your life, things just organically happen.
And I love your enthusiasm. You're over there like, woo! I love it. But that's what I do. It's just so amazing how you are so correct, Jacqueline. I just tell people it's something about doing what you're supposed to be doing at the right time, where the doors will just open for you. So don't give up. I always tell people, don't give up. Now, I will say this. I think we talked about this too. If the door is not opening, and I'm the type of person, I'm going to be like resilient. I'm going to fight. It's like dog eat dog, like I'm not giving up. I'm holding on. And God has to be like, okay, Felicia, let it go. Yeah. This is not your door. Let it go. So I think we have to also get to a point in our lives, Jacqueline, where we understand the red flags too. Because there are times when you have to realize, you know what, maybe this is not that, or this is not the time. Because even when I talked about this anthology project, I knew in 2016 when I was a part of one that I wanted to do one. Wow. But guess what? 2019 was the year. Yeah. Although it had pondered in my mind, I knew I wanted to do a podcast before I did. When I did all the research, right, it didn't come to fruition until maybe 3 years later. So you have to know that if it's in your heart to do it, you still have to, though, wait for the right time. And as we say the term, timing is everything. But it truly is everything. It truly is.
That's so true. I love that. That's such good advice, because there's stuff personally that I've had in the back of my mind, and I knew it was going to happen, but for some reason it wasn't happening at that time. And things over time, it started unfolding and things just kind of flowed. Everything kind of was easier. And we do have to pay attention to the red flags. And sometimes we're not meant to go, in a certain relationship, in a certain job, in a certain career, whether it's the wrong person, the wrong time, or we're meant to do something else.
Right.
Yeah.
And even sometimes when it doesn't make sense to the other side, when you can't break out, like I've been in situations I'm like, I just want to be done with this. But it's like, no. So I think that's even me saying, or even God letting me know, there's more development in you. There's more work for you to do. Have you gotten everything out of this experience? And I would honestly say this, and this has happened to me several times in my life and career. Attitude, your attitude literally will determine you getting to your next step. How you approach everything, and I'll say this, like, are you going to give do a quality job? Even like you say, you want to be an entrepreneur, right? A lot of people want to do that, but are you willing to work well in someone else's dream? Everything we're doing is somebody else's dream, right? It just manifested. I don't care what you're doing in life. Yeah. Even you think of Sheen magazine, right? The founder of that magazine had the vision, but guess what? All of you all came as a result because the platform was created. But why? But now that you're there, you might decide, whatever you decide, but I'm just making the point that how we do things is so critical. Yeah. Everything is life is a seed. I really believe that. So you can expect to have all these grand opportunities and you're not willing to do right by others and do right by the opportunities that are currently in front of you. I firmly believe that. I really believe that as you grow and as you manage, when this one Bible verse says, if you're faithful over a few things, you'll be a ruler over much more. And I just think it's so important. If you don't want to be faithful over a Hyundai, but you want a Range Rover, right? You can't even keep a Hyundai Excel 2-door hatchback clean. Right? You want a Range Rover, right? 100,000 plus 6-figure car. It doesn't make sense. So I really believe as you are prepared, thankfully God is looking at us and saying, you know what, is she really ready for that? Or is he really ready? That's really what I know has happened in my life. So, and when I finally made it to those points, I knew I was like, okay, you know what, there's no turning back now because I've been made solid now in these areas of that. Of course, we're always growing.
Right. It's so true. Yeah. And I found like you had said earlier, about how some people think about like the end goal. They want the money. They want, the bigger car, the more expensive car. And I've had people that I've had to talk to recently. And I was like, I'm not in it for the money. I'm not in it for these certain goals. Like I'm in it for, a bigger vision for, to make an impact on the world is what I'm shooting for. And I have kind of a little full circle story, kind of like your story that you had with Mr. Jack. So I have a guest coming on next week that is someone that my editor has been following and sending me inspiring videos of for the last couple of years.
Wow.
And so now I'm having him on and we put it 2 and 2 together. So it's like, oh my God, the universe, hello. Like,
oh my God.
Doors open. So it is possible for people to have it happen because it's not, we both are witnesses to something magical happening and to things manifesting if you really are living your truth, living your passion, and not sabotaging yourself.
Absolutely. And I want to say that, it really is a situation where you really have to know yourself. And I credit my mom for that. She always said, Felicia, you should know you better than anybody else, and let's just be, we can talk about women, right? You know how we are. Sometimes we have our moments or our emotions and, things can take over for different reasons. And she would always say, you know what, you should know you should know your triggers. You should know who, and I think that's really what it is. Once you start to really understand who you are and why you do what you do and just accept yourself, right? That's what self-sabotage is a lot of times a poor self-image, where you don't value who you are or you just don't even recognize it. And I think a lot of that has to do with self-esteem. A lot of that has to do with what we've been fed from our youth.
Yeah.
Even in that anthology I told you about, I was a part of. I mean, I was in tears because when I reread, it was just a chapter. I'm like, wow. I mean, I was just crying when I did my first read aloud because it just brought me back to the place, where I was a young girl and I was very insecure because of different reasons. And I think one thing I pointed out, the name of that chapter that I wrote was called "Be Bold, Be Resilient, Be Great, Be You." And it took a lot for me, this young girl, who had a poor image because of what? Because of what people were trying to inflict on me. A lot of times when someone sees something in you that they don't have, Jacqueline, I've learned, now they want to inflict that negativity on you. They want to pull you down. Mm-hmm. And I didn't understand it. So, as a kid, we call that bullying, right? But there are adult bullies, right?
Oh yes.
They're grown people that still don't know how to navigate and communicate and just really be authentically supportive and happy for other people. But I really, back to my point, you have to be the one that's willing to support and like I say, grind in someone else's vision. I know for a fact that I have done so many things over the years and times past, and I look back and reflect, to help other visions, whether it was as a volunteer, because I believed in what they were doing. And when you go all out, and even that story how I met President Barack Obama.
Yeah.
I think I told you that, and I think I wrote in my post, when you help someone else's dreams come true, sometimes yours will too. And I will never forget even that day how my friend was a doctoral student at the time and needed to go do a presentation in Michigan, but she had a nonprofit organization who had been invited by the Obama Foundation here in Chicago to participate in this volunteer day for young adults.
Yeah.
So no one told us President Obama was coming. It was just the foundation. So she said what you, I said, yeah, I would definitely want to she needed representation. So I took that Saturday, back to my point, just helping a friend in my mind and back to, once again, order. They asked us to stay all day. And I'm like, well, why are we staying here all day? If we're only doing a vendor table at lunchtime for them, why are we staying here? They're like, are you all going to stay all day? You got to stay all day. We're going to have a debrief session. I said, okay. So I just hung out, most of it was hanging out. We were hanging out in the sessions, checking it out. We did our thing for an hour. Then after the fact, it was just a rainy day here, but I just stayed the course. And it was so funny. I think it was like 22 organizations invited and one left, only one, but 21 organizations stayed. They took us up to the room, and unbeknownst to us, they had arranged for President Obama to thank us. And I'm not talking about, he didn't just come in and do a generic. He did that. He thanked everyone, but then he personally
Wow.
Each one of us looked us in our eyes, shook our hands, asked us for our name. And I mean, I was literally, first of all, when he came in, we were all like, we were crying, we were jumping up and down because we just could not believe it.
Obama.
So such a positive point to just say, back to the point I was making, you never know once you follow your heart and follow, just follow what's in your heart to do. Don't worry about what other people think. Just know that whatever that thing is, only you can do it like you can. And when it's in your heart to help people, like you were saying, Jacqueline, just do it. I didn't go into my podcast just thinking about, all the things that go in it to monetize it. Of course, we want to, but it's like, but the motivation has been, I want to help women. I want people to share their story. I want to hear people. Help people hear stories of people overcoming, letting them know I'm just like you, a lot like your forum here, this beautiful forum you have tonight.
Yes, it's so true that once you help others, you start to shine and you start to grow, and there's no reason to dim someone's shine. And I love the fact that something so amazing like meeting President Obama, who we love, shout out to President Obama. yes, that, something so incredible can happen. And it's sad because I was bullied as a child for many years. I was picked on, for my looks and for being weird. And then even as I got older, as I started, getting more into the public eye, I've had some people that have said some rude, snide comments too. And it's like, I don't understand what this whole mentality is for it. And it is a lot of self-sabotaging, is insecurities and being not confident and letting those other voices and jealousy and negative thoughts get into your head.
Absolutely. And I think that, once again, because it starts so young, that's why it has to be stopped.
Yeah.
When it starts young, because you haven't even formed your own opinion, you're in a formative state of mind, and depending on how how naive you are, or just removed from a lot of things, you're just not clear on why this is happening. So a lot of times you will start blaming yourself for other people's behavior towards you, and then now you've created all of these things inside. That's why you have so many youth that are struggling at such young ages with addictions, with suicide. I mean, it's just really real, but to overcome that and know, regardless, it's just amazing that we could be sitting here tonight to just help somebody know that, you know what, you need to live life full out. If you don't do it now, when are you going to do it?
Yes, I love it. Live life full out, guys. No self-sabotaging. Let's shine bright.
You have to. You have to get out of your own way. And a lot of times I'm finding, I'm just like, when I'm finding, Jacqueline, it's the simple things.
Yeah.
It really, we've made life so complicated, but it's really the beauty of the simple things. And even when I got up this morning, that's why I could be glowing this evening at this time, because I was like, you know what? I decided I'm going to have a good day. I decided I'm just going to, just be thankful and just really, really look at my blessings and look at, that's why I can look at, the report. It's not that we're insensitive. We know what's happening in the world right now, but it's all about perspective. What are you going to do to change the way you think? Because many times, if you take in, even someone was sharing in a session I did in October, for the launch event, my keynote speaker just spoke about how she doesn't even watch the news every day. Like she reads the news, but when you just take it in, you really have to know yourself, back to knowing yourself and knowing your triggers, knowing your boundaries, and just respecting yourself enough to know that, what, I've had enough, or I need a break. Even myself, I had a lot going on last week, and I just worked myself into overdrive to the point where I was, you can literally get physically ill if you don't take care of yourself, because we're trying to do. So I'm just saying, I would say, even in all the excitement, let's not forget the main thing, right? You are the main ingredient. You know, one of my quotes, you're only as good as you're good. You know, if you're not good, then you're, you know, and I'm talking about body, mind, and spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Body, mind, and spirit. You will not be good for others around you.
That is so true. I love that. That's such great tips and such great advice is you are the number one thing, and you need to have self-respect. You need to love yourself. You need to take care of yourself mentally, physically, spiritually, and stop pushing to overdrive, which I've been guilty of, especially the last couple weeks. It's been a little intense, but I'm trying to drink my water. I'm trying to
drinking our water.
Yeah, so it's definitely, you know, it's incredible advice that you're giving, you know, others to help them to, you know, be the best version of you and love yourself, respect yourself.
You really do. You really have to respect yourself, and you have to learn that when people are constantly demanding of you, you have to even stop and even diagnose, you know, is this one-sided or is this reciprocal, or is my whole dynamic with you going to change just because I didn't do what you wanted me to do for you at the time you wanted me to do it? I think we're in such a self-feed and a self-focused society. So many people, they don't think about other people. They're just, and I mean, it literally is all about what they're doing all the time. And I think when you could just take a moment and just literally say, okay, and that goes back to even what we're dealing with in the world, the empathy. Yeah. You know, like, what is it, you know, can I just take a moment and just kind of think, okay, well, maybe Jacqueline is not having the best day, or maybe, you know what, how does she normally respond to me? But maybe, you know, take the time and not just be so linear and siloed in what you want and who you are. And, you know, have you ever been in a conversation like that with somebody? And it's not like, oh, I don't want to be that person, you know, like,
yes.
What about, you know, so.
Yes, so much so. And I love that you said it all starts with a decision.
Yeah.
And that's so true. Every morning, you know, wake up and start with the decision that you're going to have an amazing day. You're going to make a difference. You're going to shine bright, and you're not going to let others affect you and dim you. And you're not going to allow yourself to self-sabotage. You're going to talk positive to yourself and get that negativity out of your mind.
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. So what future projects do you have coming up?
You are awesome. Thank you again for having me. I feel like I'm just in like a girlfriend's couch. We just having a talk, right?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, but one of my main projects, speaking of that, is I'm doing a webinar. Actually, it's going to be a class on Say Yes to Purpose and Stop Self-Sabotage Branding Intensive. So I'm going to do that on November the 30th. It's going to be on a Monday. So I'm making the final touches now. But if anyone wants to follow me on @Felicia Shakespeare on Instagram or Facebook or even LinkedIn, I'm going to start posting more details on how you can register. So that's probably about 2 weeks from Monday.
Okay.
But I'm so excited. And I did this workshop 3 years ago. It was just called Stop Self-Sabotage class. And what's so funny, all of my Facebook memories are coming up with it in the videos. It's like, okay, it's just reassuring me that this message is needed right now at this time. But we're adding a twist. Say yes to purpose and stop self-sabotage branding intensive, because why, you are your brand, and only you can stop, you know, what you are intended to do to the magnitude that you can do it.
I love it. Yes. And we will have your information on the video that we post later. And then also you can find the interview on 7 multiple platform podcasts. So if anyone doesn't have time to tune in and watch, they can listen.
Thank you so much for having me. This is always fun seeing you.
I know. It's always been such a pleasure. We always have so much to chit chat about. And there's so many amazing, inspiring words of advice that you give. And I'm always so pumped and motivated after we talk.
I love you. Thank you so much.
I love it. Was there anything else that you wanted to tell the viewers?
No, I just want you to just continue to forge ahead, you know, through COVID, through the pandemic, you know, through the minutia of what we're dealing with in our country. Just make a decision. You know, I'm going to do what I feel I can do, my part. And guess what? When you really step up and do that, to the best of your ability, with all your might, with total focus, it's going to bring you so much satisfaction. And I think what you're going to realize is that thing you've been looking for on the outside of you has already, you've already had it all along. And that's the greatest message I could give you. You really have it in you. You are really your brand. You really are the best representation of what God intended for you to be in the world. So don't hold back.
Don't hold back, guys. Don't do it.
All that.
I love it. Was there anyone that you wanted to do a special shout out to?
Oh, well, I love my mama. Mama Shakespeare, always a pleasure. Such an amazing person, woman, resilient. I am a lot of who I am because of what she instilled in us, her children. So that's my hero, my shero. I will always cherish who she is and what she is.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. There is so much love for you, and so many women are looking up to you and just love hearing your words of motivation, your words of inspiration, and are so touched by you. And there's just so much love, definitely. What is it that you want to be remembered for?
What do I want to be remembered for? I just really want to be remembered for really living out every single thing that I was supposed to do in life, and I know that may sound like I feel like every day I'm, and I have to stop too. Jacqueline says, okay, Felicia, you gotta follow those same principles, right? Yeah. You can't do it all overnight. But there's a famous, he actually is from the Bahamas, one of the most influential speakers and writers I've ever had a chance to hear in life. His name is Dr. Miles Monroe. And he would always say in his talks about how we want to, for lack of a better term, die empty. In other words, we want to make sure every gift and talent that we were given in this life, that we let it all out. He just talked about how you go to the graveyard. It's just so many gifts that didn't come out. So that's what I don't want. I don't want to have any regrets. I just want to make sure I've done everything I could do, to make what I'm supposed to make happen, in my space,
I love it. I love it so much. And you already are. You're such a huge inspiration. You have just been going full force. And I love watching your journey and seeing all the amazing things that you're doing and the amazing women that you're surrounded by and all the stories that you're sharing and highlighting and just making the world shine bright. I love it.
And I love your spirit. Thank you again. It's been so much fun being here tonight.
Yes, it has been such an honor and such a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining. And it was always a pleasure to catch up again. Thank you for illuminating the world with your presence.
Oh, thank you too. You are awesome.
Thank you, love, so much.
Okay, thank you.
So much love for you. Bye.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you guys for tuning in, for watching tonight. And we were talking about Felicia Shakespeare and self-sabotaging yourself. Don't do it. So welcome and thank you. Don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and then on also our podcast platforms. Elegant Conversation with Jacqueline Valdez, illuminating the world one voice at a time. Thank you guys.